All right, gang, this is real straightforward. We're just seeing what happens when we've correctly configured the trunk port of a switch to connect to an access point that supports one or more SSIDs that are going to be given their own unique VLANs, right? So each SSID gets its VLAN, and an access point might host 2 or 3 or 4 different SSIDs. So we need to keep them isolated and unique. So the client shows up with an SSID of Corp, contacts the access point. The access point itself converts the SSID to an associated VLAN number, and then that VLAN number is injected using 802.1q on this trunk port between the access point and the switch, and then the switch can forward that out into the rest of the network. It'll forward it directly to anything that is on the same VLAN. So what happens if we need to communicate with something on a different VLAN? It requires a routing service. So the switch could forward that onto a router that had an interface or a sub interface on that VLAN, right? That belongs to VLAN 14. Or more likely, as we see right here, I've got a layer 3 switch at some point in my hierarchy, and this layer 3 switch will have an IP address, a virtual IP address on interface VLAN 14, right? Why does it have that interface? So that it could then route itself between different virtual interfaces, possibly routing between different wired or wireless VLANs. When we do that, again, that keeps that all consolidated at the switch level, and then it can route it out into the rest of the network where we're typically going, right? We typically are not just trying to have wireless contact other wireless. We want to access the internet. We want to access our server infrastructure. We want to access the resources on the network. So you do not have to have a wireless LAN controller in order to have multiple SSIDs hosted on an access point providing access to the network. You don't have any centralized management, but you do have an access point, and it is certainly able to be configured very much like it would be if we actually had the wireless LAN controller in